And hello, hello, hello. Sorry we're a minute or so late. My daughter charged down here at about 2 minutes before the top of the hour in desperate need of using the printer and then couldn't get the thing sent. Oh, you know how it is. I'm sure you all do in one shape or form. So, anyway, it is now 2 minutes after 7 o'clock. I'm still tabbed, just like I was 2 minutes ago when I would have been ready to start. And I frankly don't care. No big deal, and I'm sure you all will be patient with me as we continue with the Martian Chronicles and anything else that we continue with. So, good evening, good afternoon, or morning, depending on where you are in this large, round, sorry, flat earthers world that we live in. And what's going on? I don't know. We're now 3 days till C Day, and it's quite staggering how out of sorts, and grumpy, and petty I get during the holidays. But I did go. I kept waiting for people to be available to go out with me and pick something out, but nobody was. So I finally went out today and got a Christmas tree 3 days before Christmas, which is better than last year when we didn't even get one. And I was so upset because I have very few traditions. And one of the only Christmas traditions I have is that when everything was done on Christmas Eve for all the many years that I had my own place, so starting in my early 20s or whatever, late teens, I would always get everything set up and, wrap up whatever presents had to be wrapped and all that kind of stuff and turn on the Christmas tree, turn on all the other light, turn off all the other lights, put on some Christmas music that I like, which when I was younger was always stuff that my parents had played, which was, old fashioned Christmas carol stuff like the Robert Shaw Chorale. In the last 20 years, it's tended to become more things like traditional Christmas folk songs and stuff like that. There's one that I've been using for years that I like very much called Christmas Day in the Morning, which is a bunch of traditional old songs like Lily Bolero and things like that. Anyway, and then sit there with the lights out, having a drink, whether it was something alcoholic, an eggnog, or just a cup of tea or something, and sit there with the music on and the lights off, except for the Christmas tree lights. That's like my only Christmas tradition that I have observed. And then to have the last couple of years have even getting a tree become a big issue because of the chaos and confusion. So this year, I just said, fine, I'm not waiting for anybody. I'll go out and get a tree. I'll get a small tree. I won't even have to tie it to the top of the car. I'll just go get it. And that's what I did. So that is where we're at, and we will have a tree. And it is indeed a small tree. I just seemed a lot easier that way. Not as much decorating and all that. But by God, Christmas Eve, 2 nights from now, right? 2 nights from now, I am going to sit there and enjoy having a tree and listening to Christmas music. It's the closest thing I get to the true meaning of Christmas, that moment of calm contemplation of the blessings that we have all been given, or most of us have been given. I don't want to be smug. The blessings of being alive, for one thing. If we're lucky, having family and friends. So, that I did get that done today, as well as a bunch of other errands I ran at the same time. Some of which were shopping related, not surprising at this time of the year. So, what else is going on? Small dog is upstairs with his fake puppy. Big dog is loping around, or actually limping around. He needs to go back to the vet and get his regular arthritis shot, which we're now going to be doing. I did not do any other book type work today, not surprisingly. I probably won't get much of any done between now and Christmas, except I'll do a lot of thinking, of course. And that's one of the nice things about doing what I do for a living, is that although it never feels to me like I'm working, I do have things I can do even when I cannot get to the keyboard or I don't have enough time to properly prepare for a day's work. I can at least think about what I'm working on and experiment in my mind with various things. So that's what's going on around our house. Otherwise, everybody and everything is pretty much as per normal. I think. Our family, of course, is a wee bit scattered this year. We've got one of our young people is going to be in Fresno, or yeah, I think in Fresno, or maybe Portland. It's complicated. The other one is going to be working, so we're not going to have him for Christmas. But our youngest, I believe, is going to be with us. So there will at least be somebody to open presents with Deborah and myself. So that's all good. And then we'll get together with the rest of the California family as to separate and distinguish from the English family, which is Deb's and mine. And yeah, that's it. And I'm not going to go into a long disquisition right now about Christmas and the meaning of Christmas and all that, because, interestingly enough, by pure coincidence, the last reading before Christmas is actually from, obviously, the Martian Chronicles, but it's Ray Bradbury's story about religion and Mars, which felt like a very appropriate thing. I believe Bradbury was always Christian, in the sense that I don't think he was necessarily a formal Christian of any particular group, but I'm not sure. But I know that Christianity and God and things like that do come up in his work. I remember some things from I Sing the Body Electric, for instance, a whole poem I think he wrote called Christus Prometheus. And certainly this story, which is called The Fire Balloons, is what's the word I'm looking for? Not obliquely, the opposite of obliquely. It's straightforwardly about religion and Christianity and the human capacity to believe and to have a religious sense, as well as presumably the Martian sense of same. So I'll be reading that in a moment. Anything else I wanted to mention? Not really. Just in the heart of the winter time and the wintertime stuff. Let me just check in and see who I can say hello to here. And I see Isaac, and hello, Isaac, and happy holidays. I see Ray Weatherford. Hello, Ray, and same to you. Tracy McClatchy. Hi, Tracy. Tim Speckins. Hello. Sherry Shomerus. Hello, Sherry. Good to see you. It's been a while. Hope you're doing okay. Stephen Pop. My buddy, oh God, I'm glad you're home. I saw your answer to the email. Steve had an accident yesterday, and a rather horrifying one at that, but seems to be doing okay under the circumstances. Kristen, good to see you, as always. Barb Ann, nice to have you. Claudia, you too. Emily, hello, Emily. And Kelly, hello. Joanna McCallum, hi, Joanna. Nice to have you with us. And Susan Shamblin. And I hope you are all doing well. A couple of other people have checked in, like Angie explaining that they wouldn't be able to read tonight because they're hanging out with their family. What the heck is wrong with you that you should be hanging out with your family in the middle of the Christmas season? That's just crazy. Now, anyway, of course, that's wonderful, and I'm fully in favor. And that, again, and I always... not always, but I frequently mention this. When I say family, if you are fortunate, as I was, to have been given the privilege of being actually in a family where you are genetically related and you really get along well with the people to whom you are related, good for you, lucky you. And I am one of those people, and I am lucky enough to have two wonderful brothers. And their wonderful wives and their kids. They each have two kids, and the kids are great too. My nephews and one of my nephews is now non-binary, so I'm not sure what word I would use in place of nephew. It's anyway my kid's cousin. That'll do for now. Anyway, so that's wonderful, and I'm always really glad that I was in that situation, and that part of the reason that we maybe don't have quite so many rivalries and upsets as some nuclear families is because we were actually kind of stretched out. My middle brother is 6 years younger than me, and my youngest brother is almost 11 years younger than me, well, 10 and a half. So perhaps we stayed out of each other's way a little bit. I don't know, but they're lovely people. And as I said, they married lovely people and they had lovely children. So I'm very fortunate. But And here's the point of what I was about to say before I got held up explaining my own good luck. Families are also what you make, and you can make families for yourselves. One of our family members, who is also very, very dear to our hearts, one of our other young people, is going to be back east, or at least in the Midwest this year in Minnesota, and we are going to miss her very much. But she was not born into our family. We just kind of pulled her in like an amoeba swallowing an innocent paramecium. And we will miss her, of course. And the whole point I'm trying to make here, obviously, is that your family is what you choose to be your family. And if you're lucky and you have one that is genetically related to you and that you get along with really well, that's great. But if it didn't work out that way and you make a family for yourself with the people that work with you and care for you and get you, hey, that is just as good and just as worthy of celebration. But one way or another, it really helps to have a family, because we are social critters, we human beings, and it is never more apparent than in the dark depths of winter and in the midst of holiday frenzy, whether it be the stress of the holidays or the desire to be with other people. So wherever you are and whatever you're doing this year, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, whether you celebrate anything or not, I hope your winter time is not performed. What's the word I want? I hope your winter time is engaged in with people that you love and care about. And that's really pretty much the entirety of that message. So let me just check back quickly one more time just to see if there's anybody else that I haven't had a chance to say hello to. Nibbling. Emily has given me the word. Thank you, Emily. So my nibbling, I've got nieces, nephews. Well, no, I don't technically have nieces, I guess, at least not in my direct family. I've got tons of nieces in England. Anyway, I have nieces, nephews, and nibblings. So thank you for that word, Emily. Much appreciated. I see Steve Gurr has showed up. I see Chris Van Dahl, if I didn't already say hello. And Michelle. There's a new name, Michelle Jays. Hello, Michelle. Happy holidays to you. And again, yes, Steve, I think I said hello to you, Steve. So, but thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure. And if I didn't make it clear, and I mean, talk about the great non-things of the 21st and late 20th century. This idea that people, that some people are offended by the term happy holidays, and all I can say is, God, please get over yourself. It's the winter time predates everything. It predates Judeo-Christianism. It predates the Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita and all the sacred texts of every religion. The winter time, the shortest day of the year, has been with us before there was any religion that we still know about, because obviously there were probably things that resembled religions back in the primordial prehistoric days for which we have no records, except for an occasional cave painting, which are hard to interpret at the best of times. So the idea that somehow, that because Christmas is the dominant holiday in this particular society, that somehow we have to ignore all the others, or we're insulting people. I'm sorry, folks, and it's Christmas time, but I have to say it. This is crap. This is just crap. It's silly. So let's just put that aside for now. If you want to say Merry Christmas, say it. More power to you. I say it to people. People say it to me. I always take it in the spirit that it's meant, which is I wish for you to have a good time during this part of the year. And if people say happy holidays to me, I take it the same way. And it just makes sense, that the holiday has been a holiday since long before there was such a concept as a holiday or holy day, because we don't know what people used to think. I mean, we have a hard enough time just figuring out whether things like Stonehenge are aligned with the winter solstice or the summer solstice. So, let alone trying to decide what you're supposed to be saying at this time of the year based on which has primacy. Anyway, okay, enough babbling. I am going to start reading from tonight's story, And where did it go? There it is. All right, so thank you for bearing with me while I meandered and wandered around on several different subjects. And as I said, this is strangely appropriate because it is Bradbury's, I think it's the only story that I would call overtly religious or concerned with religious matters in the Martian Chronicles. And yeah, so I'm going to start it. So November 2033, the fire balloons. Fire exploded over summer night lawns. You saw sparkling faces of uncles and aunts. Skyrockets fell up in the brown shining eyes of cousins on the porch, and the cold charred sticks thumped down in dry meadows far away. The Most Reverend Father Joseph Daniel Peregrine opened his eyes. What a dream! He and his cousins with their fiery play at his grandfather's ancient Ohio home so many years ago. He lay listening to the great hollow of the church, the other cells where other fathers lay. Had they, too, on the eve of the flight of the rocket Crucifix, lain with memories of the 4th of July? Yes, this was like those breathless Independence days when you waited in the dawn for the first concussion and rushed out on the dewy sidewalks, your hands full of loud miracles. So here they were, the Episcopal Fathers, in the breathing dawn before they pinwheeled off to Mars, leaving their incense through the velvet cathedral of space. "Should we go at all?" whispered Father Peregrine. "Shouldn't we solve our own sins on earth? Aren't we running from our lives here?" He arose, his fleshy body, with its rich look of strawberries, milk, and steak, moving heavily. Or is it sloth? He wondered. Do I dread the journey? He stepped into the needle spray shower. "But I shall take you to Mars, body," he addressed himself, "leaving old sins here and on to Mars to find new sins?" A delightful thought, almost. Sins no one had ever thought of. Oh, he himself had written a little book, The Problem of Sin on Other Worlds, ignored as somehow not serious enough by his Episcopal brethren. Only last night, over a final cigar, he and Father Stone had talked of it. On Mars, sin might appear as virtue. We must guard against virtuous acts there that later might be found to be sins, said Father Peregrine, beaming. How exciting! It's been centuries since so much adventure has accompanied the prospect of being a missionary. I will recognize sin, said Father Stone bluntly, even on Mars. Oh, we priests pride ourselves on being litmus paper, changing color in sin's presence, retorted Father Peregrine. But what if Martian chemistry is such we do not color at all? If there are new senses on Mars, you must admit the possibility of unrecognizable sin. If there is no malice aforethought, there is no sin or punishment for same. The Lord assures us that, Father Stone replied. On Earth, yes, but perhaps a Martian sin might inform the subconscious of its evil, telepathically, leaving the conscious mind of a man free to act, seemingly without malice. What then? What could there be in the way of new sins? Father Peregrine leaned heavily forward. Adam alone did not sin. Add Eve and you add temptation. Add a second man and you make adultery possible. With the addition of sex or people, you add sin. If men were harmless, they could not strangle with their hands. You would not have that particular sin of murder. Add arms, and you add the possibility of a new violence. Amoebas cannot sin because they reproduce by fission. They do not covet wives or murder each other. Add sex to amoebas, add arms and legs, and you would have murder and adultery. Add an arm or leg or person, or take away each, and you add or subtract possible evil. On Mars, what if there are 5 new senses, organs, invisible limbs we can't conceive of? Then, mightn't there be 5 new sins? Father Stone gasped. I think you enjoy this sort of thing. I keep my mind alive, Father, just alive is all. Your mind's always juggling, isn't it? Mirrors, torches, plates. Yes, because sometimes the church seems like those posed circus tableaux where the curtain lifts and men, white zinc oxide talcum powder statues, freeze to represent abstract beauty. Very wonderful, but I hope there will always be room for me to dart about among the statues. Don't you, Father Stone? Father Stone had moved away. I think we'd better go to bed. In a few hours, we'll be jumping up to see your new sins, Father Peregrine. The rocket stood, ready for the firing. The fathers walked from their devotions in the chilly morning, many a fine priest from New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, the church was sending its best, walking across town to the frosty field. Walking, Father Peregrine remembered the bishop's words. Father Peregrine, you will captain the missionaries, with Father Stone at your side. Having chosen you for this serious task, I find my reasons deplorably obscure, Father, but your pamphlet on planetary sin did not go unread. You are a flexible man, and Mars is like that uncleaned closet we have neglected for millennium. Sin has collected there like bric-a-brac. Mars is twice Earth's age and has had double the number of Saturday nights, liquor baths, and eye-poppings at women as naked as white seals. When we open that closet door, things will fall on us. We need a quick, flexible man, one whose mind can dodge. Anyone a little dogmatic might break in two. I feel you'll be resilient. Father, the job is yours. The bishop and the fathers knelt. The blessing was said, and the rocket given a little shower of holy water. Arising, the bishop addressed them. I know you will go with God to prepare the Martians for the reception of His truth. I wish you all a thoughtful journey. They filed past the bishop, 20 men, robes whispering, to deliver their hands into his kind hands before passing into the cleansed projectile. I wonder, said Father Peregrine at the last moment, if Mars is hell, only waiting for our arrival before it bursts into brimstone and fire. Lord be with us, said Father Stone. The rocket moved. Coming out of space was like coming out of the most beautiful cathedral they had ever seen. Touching Mars was like touching the ordinary pavement outside the church 5 minutes after having really known your love for God. The fathers stepped gingerly from the steaming rocket and knelt upon Martian sand while Father Peregrine gave thanks. Lord, we thank Thee for the journey through Thy rooms. And, Lord, we have reached a new land, so we must have new eyes. We shall hear new sounds and must needs have new ears. And there will be new sins, for which we ask the gift of better and firmer and purer hearts. Amen. They arose. And here was Mars, like a sea under which they trudged in the guise of submarine biologists, seeking life. Here the territory of hidden sin. Oh, how carefully they must all balance, like gray feathers, in this new element, afraid that walking itself might be sinful, or breathing, or simple fasting. And here was the mayor of First Town, come to meet them with outstretched hand. What can I do for you, Father Peregrine? We'd like to know about the Martians, for only if we know about them can we plan our church intelligently. Are they 10 feet tall? We will build large doors. Are their skins red or blue or green? We must know when we put human figures in the stained glass, so we may use the right skin color. Are they heavy? We will build sturdy seats for them. Father, said the mayor, I don't think you should worry about the Martians. There are 2 races. One of them is pretty well dead. A few are in hiding. And the second race, well, they're not quite human." "Oh?" Father Peregrine's heart quickened. "They're round, luminous globes of light, Father, living in those hills. Man or beast, who can say? But they act intelligently, I hear." The mayor shrugged. "Of course, they're not men, so I don't think you'll care." "On the contrary," said Father Peregrine swiftly. "Intelligent, you say?" "There's a story. A prospector broke his leg in those hills and would have died there. The blue spheres of light came at him. When he woke, he was down on a highway and didn't know how he got there." "Drunk," said Father Stone. "That's the story," said the mayor. "Father Peregrine, with most of the Martians dead and only these blue spheres, I frankly think you'd be better off in First City. Mars is opening up. It's a frontier now, like in the old days on Earth out west and in Alaska. Men are pouring up there. There are a couple of thousand Irish mechanics and miners and day laborers in First Town who need saving because there too many wicked women came with them and too much 10th-century-old Martian wine." Father Peregrine was gazing into the soft blue hills. Father Stone cleared his throat. "Well, Father?" Father Peregrine did not hear. "Spheres of blue fire?" "Yes, Father." "Ah," Father Peregrine sighed. "Blue balloons." Father Stone shook his head. "A circus." Father Peregrine felt his wrists pounding. He saw the little frontier town with raw, fresh-built sin, and he saw the hills, old with the oldest, and yet perhaps an even newer, to him, sin. "Mayor, could your Irish laborers cook one more day in hellfire?" "I'd turn and baste 'em for you, Father." Father Peregrine nodded to the hills. "Then that's where we'll go." There was a murmur from everyone. "It would be so simple," explained Father Peregrine, "to go into town. I prefer to think that if the Lord walked here, and people said, 'Here is the beaten path,' he would reply, 'Show me the weeds. I will make a path.'" "But, Father Stone, think how it would weigh upon us if we passed sinners by and did not extend our hands." "But globes of fire. I imagine man looked funny to other animals when we first appeared. Yet he has a soul for all his homeliness. Until we prove otherwise, let us assume that these fiery spheres have souls." "All right," agreed the mayor, "but you'll be back to town?" "We'll see. First some breakfast. Then you and I, Father Stone, will walk alone into the hills. I don't want to frighten those fiery Martians with machines or crowds. Shall we have breakfast?" The fathers ate in silence. At nightfall, Father Peregrine and Father Stone were high in the hills. They stopped and sat upon a rock to enjoy a moment of relaxation and waiting. The Martians had not as yet appeared, and they both felt vaguely disappointed. "I wonder," Father Peregrine mopped his face, "do you think if we called hello, they might answer?" "Father Peregrine, won't you ever be serious?" "Not until the good Lord is." "Oh, don't look so terribly shocked, please. The Lord is not serious. In fact, it is a little hard to know just what else he is except loving. And love has to do with humor, doesn't it? For you cannot love someone unless you put up with him, can you? And you cannot put up with someone constantly unless you can laugh at him. Isn't that true? And certainly we are ridiculous little animals wallowing in the fudge bowl, and God must love us all the more because we appeal to his humor." "I never thought of God as humorous," said Father Stone. "The creator of the platypus, the camel, the ostrich, and man." "Oh, come now," Father Peregrine laughed. But at this instant, from among the twilight hills, like a series of blue lamps lit to guide their way, came the Martians. Father Stone saw them first. "Look!" Father Peregrine turned, and the laughter stopped in his mouth. The round blue globes of fire hovered among the twinkling stars, distantly trembling. "Monsters!" Father Stone leaped up, but Father Peregrine caught him. "Wait! We should have gone to town." "No, listen. Look," pleaded Father Peregrine. "I'm afraid." "Don't be. This is God's work." "The devil's." "No. Now, quiet." Father Peregrine gentled him, and they crouched with the soft blue light on their upturned faces as the fiery orbs drew near. And, again, Independence Night, thought Father Peregrine, tremoring. He felt like a child back in those July 4th evenings, the sky blowing apart, breaking into powdery stars and burning sound, the concussions jingling house windows like the ice on 1,000 thin ponds, the aunts, uncles, cousins crying, "Ah!" as to some celestial physician. The summer sky colors, and the fire balloons lit by an indulgent grandfather, steadied in his massively tender hands. Oh, the memory of those lovely fire balloons, softly lighted, warmly billowed bits of tissue like insect wings, lying like folded wasps in boxes, and last of all, after the day of riot and fury, at long last, from their boxes delicately unfolded, blue, red, white, patriotic, the fire balloons. He saw the dim faces of dear relatives long dead and mantled with moss as grandfather lit the tiny candle and let the warm air breathe up to form the balloon, plumply luminous in his hands, a shining vision which they held, reluctant to let it go, for once released it was yet another year gone from life. Another 4th, another bit of beauty vanished. And then, up, still up through the warm summer night constellations, the fire balloons had drifted, while red, white, and blue eyes followed them, wordless, from family porches. Away into deep Illinois country, over night rivers and sleeping mansions, the fire balloons dwindled, forever gone. Father Peregrine felt tears in his eyes. Above him the Martians, not one, but 1,000 whispering fire balloons, it seemed, hovered. Any moment he might find his long-dead and blessed grandfather at his elbow, staring up at beauty. But it was Father Stone. "Let's go, please, Father." "I must speak to them." Father Peregrine rustled forward, not knowing what to say, for what had he ever said to the fire balloons of time past except with his mind? "You are beautiful. You are beautiful." And that was not enough now. He could only lift his heavy arms and call upward, as he had often wished to call after the enchanted fire balloons. "Hello!" But the fiery spheres only burned like images in a dark mirror. They seemed fixed, gaseous, miraculous, forever. "We come with God," said Father Peregrine to the sky. "Silly, silly, silly!" Father Stone chewed the back of his hand. "In the name of God, Father Peregrine, stop!" But now the phosphorescent spheres blew away into the hills. In a moment they were gone. Father Peregrine called again, and the echo of his last cry shook the hills above. Turning, he saw an avalanche shake out dust, pause, and then, with a thunder of stone wheels, crash down the mountain upon them. "Look what you've done!" cried Father Stone. Father Peregrine was almost fascinated, then horrified. He turned, knowing they could run only a few feet before the rocks crushed them into ruins. He had time to whisper, "Oh, Lord," and the rocks fell. "Father!" They were separated, like chaff from wheat. There was a blue shimmering of globes, a shift of cold stars, a roar, and then they stood upon a ledge 200 feet away, watching a spot where their bodies would have been buried under tons of stone. The blue light evaporated. The two fathers clutched each other. What happened? The blue fires lifted us. We ran, that was it. No, the globes saved us. They couldn't. They did. The sky was empty. There was a feel as if a great bell had just stopped tolling. Reverberations lingered in their teeth and marrows. Let's get away from here. You'll have us killed. I haven't feared death for a good many years, Father Stone. We've proved nothing. Those blue lights ran off at the first cry. It's useless. No. Father Peregrine was suffused with stubborn wonder. Somehow, they saved us. That proves they have souls. It proves only that they might have saved us. Everything was confused. We might have escaped ourselves. They are not animals, Father Stone. Animals do not save lives, especially of strangers. There is mercy and compassion here. Perhaps tomorrow we may prove more. Prove what? How? Father Stone was immensely tired now. The outrage to his mind and body showed on his stiff face. Follow them in helicopters, reading chapter and verse. They're not human. They haven't eyes or ears or bodies like ours. But I feel something about them, replied Father Peregrine. I know a great revelation is at hand. They saved us. They think. They had a choice. Let us live or die. That proves free will. Father Stone set to work building a fire, glaring at the sticks in his hands, choking on the gray smoke. I myself will open a convent for nursling geese, a monastery for sainted swine, and I shall build a miniature apse in a microscope so that Paramecium can attend the services and tell their beads with their flagella. Oh, Father Stone, I'm sorry. Father Stone blinked redly across the fire. But this is like blessing a crocodile before he chews you up. You're risking the entire missionary expedition. We belong in First Town, washing liquor from men's throats and perfume off their hands. Can't you recognize the human in the inhuman? I'd much rather recognize the inhuman in the human. But if I prove these things sin, no immoral life, have free will and intellect, Father Stone, that will take much convincing. The night grew rapidly cold, and they peered into the fire to find their wildest thoughts while eating biscuits and berries, and soon they were bundled for sleep under the chiming stars. And just before turning over one last time, Father Stone, who had been thinking for many minutes to find something to bother Father Peregrine about, stared into the soft pink charcoal bed and said, Not Adam and Eve on Mars. No original sin. Maybe the Martians live in a state of God's grace. Then we can go back down to town and start work on the Earthmen. Father Peregrine reminded himself to say a little prayer for Father Stone, who got so mad and who was now being vindictive, God help him. Yes, Father Stone, but the Martians killed some of our settlers. That's sinful. There must have been an original sin and a Martian Adam and Eve. We'll find them. Men are men, unfortunately, no matter what their shape, and inclined to sin. But Father Stone was pretending sleep. Father Peregrine did not shut his eyes. Of course they couldn't let these Martians go to hell, could they? With a compromise to their consciences, could they go back to the new colonial towns? Those towns so full of sinful gullets and women with scintilla eyes and white oyster bodies, rollicking in beds and with lonely laborers. Wasn't that the place for the fathers? Wasn't this trek into the hills merely a personal whim? Was he really thinking of God's church, or was he quenching the thirst of a sponge-like curiosity? Those blue, round globes of St. Anthony's fire, how they burned in his mind. What a challenge to find the man behind the mask, the human behind the inhuman. Wouldn't he be proud if he could say, even to his secret self, that he had converted a rolling huge pool table full of fiery spheres? What a sin of pride, worth doing a penance for. But then one did many prideful things out of love, and he loved the Lord so much and was so happy at it that he wanted everyone else to be happy too. The last thing he saw before sleep was the return of the blue fires, like a flight of burning angels silently singing him to his worried rest. The blue, round dreams were still there in the sky when Father Peregrine awoke in the early morning. Father Stone slept like a stiff bundle, quietly. Father Peregrine watched the Martians floating and watching him. They were human. He knew it. But he must prove it or face a dry-mouthed, dry-eyed bishop telling him kindly to step aside. But how to prove humanity if they hid in the high vaults of the sky? How to bring them nearer and provide answers to the many questions? They saved us from the avalanche. Father Peregrine arose, moved off among the rocks, and began to climb the nearest hill until he came to a place where a cliff dropped sheerly to a floor 200 feet below. He was choking from his vigorous climb in the frosty air. He stood getting his breath. If I fell from here, it would surely kill me. He let a pebble drop. Moments later, it clicked on the rocks below. The Lord would never forgive me. He tossed another pebble. It wouldn't be suicide, would it, if I did it out of love? He lifted his gaze to the blue spheres. But first, another try. He called to them, "Hello! Hello!" The echoes tumbled upon each other, but the blue fires did not blink or move. He talked to them for 5 minutes. When he stopped, he peered down and saw Father Stone still indignantly asleep below in the little camp. I must prove everything. Father Peregrine stepped to the cliff rim. I am an old man. I am not afraid. Surely the Lord will understand that I am doing this for him. He drew a deep breath. All his life swam through his eyes, and he thought, in a moment, shall I die? I am afraid that I love living much too much, but I love things more. And thinking thus, he stepped off the cliff. He fell. Fool! He cried. He tumbled end over end. You were wrong! The rocks rushed up at him, and he saw himself dashed on them and sent to glory. Why did I do this thing? But he knew the answer, and an instant later was calm as he fell. The wind roared around him, and the rocks hurtled to meet him. And then there was a shift of stars, a glimmering of blue light, and he felt himself surrounded by blueness and suspended. A moment later he was deposited with a gentle bump upon the rocks, where he sat a full moment, alive and touching himself and looking up at those blue lights that had withdrawn instantly. You saved me, he whispered. You wouldn't let me die. You knew it was wrong. He rushed over to Father Stone, who still lay quietly asleep. Father! Father, wake up! He shook him and brought him around. Father, they saved me. Who saved you? Father Stone blinked and sat up. Father Peregrine related his experience. A dream, a nightmare, go back to sleep, said Father Stone irritably. You and your circus balloons. But I was awake. Now, Father, calm yourself. There now. You don't believe me. Have you a gun? Yes, there, let me have it. What are you going to do? Father Stone handed over the small pistol they had brought along for protection against snakes or other similar unpredictable animals. Father Peregrine seized the pistol. "I'll prove it." He pointed the pistol at his own hand and fired. "Stop!" There was a shimmer of light, and before their eyes the bullet stood upon the air, poised an inch from his open palm. It hung for a moment, surrounded by a blue phosphorescence. Then it fell, hissing, into the dust. Father Peregrine fired the gun 3 times, at his hand, at his leg, at his body. The 3 bullets hovered, glittering, and, like dead insects, fell at their feet. "You see?" said Father Peregrine, letting his arm fall and allowing the pistol to drop after the bullets. "They know. They understand. They are not animals. They think and judge and live in a moral climate. What animal would save me from myself like this? There is no animal would do that, only another man, Father. Now do you believe?" Father Stone was watching the sky and the blue lights, and now, silently, he dropped to one knee and picked up the warm bullets and cupped them in his hand. He closed his hand tight. The sun was rising behind them. "I think we had better go down to the others and tell them of this, and bring them back up here," said Father Peregrine. By the time the sun was up, they were well on their way back to the rocket. Father Peregrine drew the round circle in the center of the blackboard. "This is Christ, the Son of the Father." He pretended not to hear the other father's sharp intake of breath. "This is Christ in all his glory," he continued. "It looks like a geometry problem," observed Father Stone. "A fortunate comparison, for we deal with symbols here. Christ is no less Christ, you must admit it, in being represented by a circle or a square. For centuries, the cross has symbolized his love and agony, so this circle will be the Martian Christ. This is how we shall bring him to Mars." The fathers stirred fretfully and looked at each other. "You, Brother Matthias, will create in glass a replica of this circle, a globe filled with bright fire. It will stand upon the altar." "A cheap magic trick," muttered Father Stone. Father Peregrine went on patiently. "On the contrary, we are giving them God in an understandable image. If Christ had come to us on earth as an octopus, would we have accepted him readily?" He spread his hands. "Was it then a cheap magic trick of the Lord's to bring us Christ through Jesus in man's shape? After we bless the church we build here and sanctify its altar and this symbol, do you think Christ would refuse to inhabit the shape before us? You know in your hearts he would not refuse." "But the body of a soulless animal?" said Brother Matthias. "We've already gone over that many times since we returned. This morning, Brother Matthias, these creatures saved us from the avalanche. They realized that self-destruction was sinful and prevented it time after time. Therefore, we must build a church in the hills, live with them, to find their own special ways of sinning, the alien ways, and help them to discover God." The fathers did not seem pleased at the prospect. "Is it because they are so odd to the eye?" wondered Father Peregrine. "But what is a shape? Only a cup for the blazing soul that God provides us all. If tomorrow I found that sea lions suddenly possessed free will, intellect, knew when not to sin, knew what life was, and tempered justice with mercy and life with love, then I would build an undersea cathedral. And if the sparrows should miraculously, with God's will, gain everlasting souls tomorrow, I would freight a church with helium and take after them. For all souls in any shape, if they have free will and are aware of their sins, will burn in hell unless given their rightful communions. I would not let a Martian sphere burn in hell either, for it is a sphere only in mine eyes. When I close my eyes, it stands before me, an intelligence, a love, a soul, and I must not deny it. But that glass globe you wish placed on the altar, protested Father Stone. Consider the Chinese, replied Father Peregrine imperturbably. What sort of Christ do Christian Chinese worship? An Oriental Christ, naturally. You've all seen Oriental nativity scenes. How is Christ dressed? In Eastern robes. Where does he walk? In Chinese settings of bamboo and misty mountain and crooked tree. His eyelids taper, his cheekbones rise. Each country, each race adds something to our Lord. I am reminded of the Virgin of Guadalupe, to whom all Mexico pays its love. Her skin? Have you noticed the paintings of her? A dark skin, like that of her worshippers. Is that blasphemy? Not at all. It is not logical that men should accept a God, no matter how real, of another color. I often wonder why our missionaries do well in Africa with a snow-white Christ. Perhaps because white is a sacred color, and albino or any other form to the African tribes. Given time, mightn't Christ darken there too? The form does not matter. Content is everything. We cannot expect these Martians to accept an alien form. We shall give them Christ in their own image. There's a flaw in your reasoning, Father, said Father Stone. Won't the Martians suspect us of hypocrisy? They will realize that we don't worship a round globular Christ, but a man with limbs and a head. How do we explain the difference? By showing there is none. Christ will fill any vessel that is offered, bodies or globes. He is there, and each will worship the same thing in a different guise. What is more, we must believe in this globe we give the Martians. We must believe in a shape which is meaningless to us as to form. This spheroid will be Christ, and we must remember that we ourselves and the shape of our earth, Christ, would be meaningless, ridiculous, a squander of material to these Martians. Father Peregrine laid aside his chalk. Now, let us go into the hills and build our church. The fathers began to pack their equipment. The church was not a church, but an area cleared of rocks, a plateau on one of the low mountains, its soil smoothed and brushed, and an altar established, whereon Brother Matthias placed the fiery globe he had constructed. At the end of 6 days of work, the church was ready. What shall we do with this? Father Stone tapped an iron bell they had brought along. What does a bell mean to them? I imagine I brought it for our own comfort, admitted Father Peregrine. We need a few familiarities. This church seems so little like a church, and we feel somewhat absurd here, even I, for it is something new, this business of converting the creatures of another world. I feel like a ridiculous play actor at times, and then I pray to God to lend me strength. Many of the fathers are unhappy. Some of them joke about all this, Father Peregrine. I know. We'll put this bell in a small tower, for their comfort, anyway. What about the organ? We'll play it at the first service tomorrow. But the Martians, I know, but again, I suppose, for our own comfort, our own music. Later, we may discover theirs. They arose very early on Sunday morning and moved through the coldness like pale phantoms, rime tinkling on their habits. Covered with chimes they were, shaking down showers of silver water. I wonder if it is Sunday here on Mars, mused Father Peregrine, but seeing Father Stone wince, he hastened on. It might be Tuesday or Thursday, who knows? But no matter, my idle fancy, it's Sunday to us. Come. The fathers walked into the flat, wide area of the church and knelt, shivering and blue-lipped. Father Peregrine said a little prayer and put his cold fingers to the organ keys. The music went up like a flight of pretty birds. He touched the keys like a man moving his hands among the weeds of a wild garden, startling up great soarings of beauty into the hills. The music calmed the air. It smelled the fresh smell of morning. The music drifted into the mountains and shook down mineral powders in a dusty rain. The fathers waited. "Well, Father Peregrine," Father Stone eyed the empty sky where the sun was rising, furnace red. "I don't see our friends." "Let me try again." Father Peregrine was perspiring. He built an architecture of Bach, stone by exquisite stone, raising a music cathedral so vast that its farthest chancels were in Nineveh, its farthest dome at St. Peter's left hand. The music stayed and did not crash in ruin when it was over, but partook of a series of white clouds and was carried away among other lands. The sky was still empty. "They'll come!" But Father Peregrine felt the panic in his chest, very small, growing. "Let us pray. Let us ask them to come. They read minds. They know." The fathers lowered themselves yet again in rustlings and whispers. They prayed. And to the east, out of the icy mountains of 7 o'clock on Sunday morning, or perhaps Thursday morning, or maybe Monday morning on Mars, came the soft, fiery globes. They hovered and sank and filled the area around the shivering priests. "Thank you, oh, thank you, Lord." Father Peregrine shut his eyes tight and played the music, and when it was done, he turned and gazed upon his wondrous congregation. And a voice touched his mind, and the voice said, "We have come for a little while." "You may stay," said Father Peregrine. "For a little while only," said the voice quietly. "We have come to tell you certain things. We should have spoken sooner, but we had hoped that you might go on your way if left alone." Father Peregrine started to speak, but the voice hushed him. "We are the old ones," the voice said, and it entered him like a blue gaseous flare and burned in the chambers of his head. "We are the old Martians who left our marble cities and went into the hills, forsaking the material life we had lived. So very long ago we became these things that we now are. Once we were men with bodies and legs and arms such as yours. The legend has it that one of us, a good man, discovered a way to free man's soul and intellect, to free him of bodily ills and melancholies, of deaths and transfigurations, of ill humors and senilities, and so we took on the look of lightning and blue fire, and have lived in the winds and skies and hills forever after that, neither prideful nor arrogant, neither rich nor poor, passionate nor cold. We have lived apart from those we left behind, those other men of this world, and how we came to be has been forgotten, the process lost. But we shall never die, nor do harm. We have put away the sins of the body and live in God's grace. We covet no other property. We have no property. We do not steal, nor kill, nor lust, nor hate. We live in happiness. We cannot reproduce. We do not eat or drink or make war. All the sensualities and childishnesses and sins of the bodies were stripped away when our bodies were put aside. We have left sin behind, Father Peregrine. By the way, we're almost done, so I'm going to continue the story to the end. We have left sin behind, Father Peregrine, and it is burned like the leaves in the autumn wicker, and it is gone like the soiled snow of an evil winter, and it is gone like the sexual flowers of a red and yellow spring, and it is gone like the panting nights of hottest summer, and our season is temperate, and our clime is rich in thought. Father Peregrine was standing now, for the voice touched him at such a pitch that it almost shook him from his senses. It was an ecstasy and a fire washing through him. We wish to tell you that we appreciate your building this place for us, but we have no need of it, for each of us is a temple unto himself, and we need no place wherein to cleanse ourselves. Forgive us for not coming to you sooner, but we are separate and apart, and have talked to no one for 10,000 years, nor have we interfered in any way with the life of this planet. It has come into your mind now that we are the lilies of the field. We toil not, neither do we spin. You are right. And so we suggest that you take the parts of this temple into your own new cities, and there cleanse them. For rest assured, we are happy and at peace. The fathers were on their knees in the vast blue light, and Father Peregrine was down too, and they were weeping, and it did not matter that their time had been wasted. It did not matter to them at all. The blue spheres murmured and began to rise once more on a breath of cool air. "May I?" cried Father Peregrine, not daring to ask, eyes closed. "May I come again some day, that I may learn from you?" The blue fires blazed. The air trembled. Yes, someday he might come again. Someday. And then the fire balloons blew away and were gone. And he was like a child, on his knees, tears streaming from his eyes, crying to himself, "Come back! Come back!" And at any moment grandfather might lift him and carry him upstairs to his bedroom in a long-gone Ohio town. They filed down out of the hills at sunset. Looking back, Father Peregrine saw the blue fires burning. No, he thought, we couldn't build a church for the likes of you. You're beauty itself. What church could compete with the fireworks of the pure soul? Father Stone moved in silence beside him, and at last he spoke. "The way I see it, there's a truth on every planet. All parts of the big truth. On a certain day, they'll all fit together like the pieces of a jigsaw. This has been a shaking experience. I'll never doubt again, Father Peregrine, for this truth here is as true as Earth's truth, and they lie side by side, and will go on to other worlds, adding the sum of the parts of the truth, until one day the whole total will stand before us like the light of a new day. That's a lot coming from you, Father Stone. I'm sorry now, in a way. We're going down to the town to handle our own kind. Those blue lights now, when they settled about us, and that voice." Father Stone shivered. Father Peregrine reached out to take the other's arm. They walked together. "And you know," said Father Stone finally, fixing his eyes on Brother Matthias, who strode ahead with the glass sphere tenderly carried in his arms, that glass sphere with the blue phosphorus light glowing forever inside it. "You know, Father Peregrine, that globe there." "Yes, it's him. It is him, after all." Father Peregrine smiled, and they walked down out of the hills toward the new town. And that is the end of the fire balloons, and we are up past the top of the hour, so give me a bookmark here. So we're also about halfway through the book, well, maybe a little bit more. So with that, I am going to wrap it up for tonight. Those of you who celebrate Christmas, have a very Merry Christmas. Those of you who do not, but who are in any kind of holiday mood whatsoever this year, I adjure you to have a lovely holiday. And I hope that includes some genuine holiday, a little time off, a little rest, a little recuperation. I will be back, as far as I know, next week. I'll have to check and see if it should be before New Year, so it shouldn't be any kind of a conflict there. I will be back next week. Again, happy holidays to all, and happy solstice. And I will see you soon. And please take good care of yourselves and take good care of your friends, loved ones, neighbors, anybody who needs a little helping hand here and there, a kind word or a smile. You never can tell how much good that might do somebody. And until I see you, be well. Peace. And I'll see you soon.